And I found these books in my office today, and I thought, well, I'm going to bring them, and I'm going to learn what this is about. So that as club growth director, I should know these things.
You're growing.
I'm growing. That's it. So we are in for a treat. You're in the right place if you're here to learn about Speechcraft from basics to beyond. I've heard a few hints from Tina and Margaret and Charles of what they're going to be presenting tonight. And this isn't just an ordinary Speechcraft training. No. We're getting Speechcraft, we're getting Pathcraft, we're going to hear about, did I say Speechcraft, it's hard to say, Speechcraft, Pathcraft, and maybe some other crafts. So I'm going to stop with my crafting here and make the introduction. All right, have I left anything out? We ready to go? All right, I would like to introduce our three presenters tonight who have all put their heart and soul into this event, and I'm looking forward to a treat. I hope that you are too. First is Margaret Mitchell, who is a distinguished Toastmaster and a veteran Speechcraft planner. Let's do that. But wait, there's more. She has 7 Speechcrafts under her belt so far and is currently working on her 8th. That's nice. She's excited to be paired with Tina as District Speechcraft co-chair so that she can share with you the joys and rewards of planning and conducting your own Speechcraft. Margaret Mitchell. And her partner and co-chair, Margaret and Tina, are co-chairs of Speechcraft for District 1 this year. Tina Tomiyama, also a distinguished Toastmaster, has participated in 6 Speechcrafts. At Cal, Northrop Grumman, Praise Masters, Story Masters, and Charles Drew University. All of these Speechcrafts were successful, but some, the ones Margaret planned, were more successful. That's what she reports that. Tonight, Tina will share tips on how to make your Speechcraft brilliant. Thank you for being here, Tina. And their special guest tonight is Mr. Charles Britton.
Woo! Touch, kitty!
Charles is a new member of Toastmasters and recently joined just in time to experience the launch of Pathways program. He's very excited to partner with Tina and Margaret to learn about Speechcraft and how Pathways can be incorporated. Charles is on his 2nd level of Visionary Communicator on the Pathway program, and tonight he is earning his 3rd level, going on to his 4th level of Visionary Communicator, and we are all learning about that, aren't we? Yeah. So thank you again for being here, and please join me in welcoming Tina, Margaret, and Charles.
So everybody's here to learn about Speechcraft, and I'm excited about talking about Speechcraft. I am a strong believer in the power of a Speechcraft to build your club membership. In fact, from my experience, if you plan your Speechcraft in the right way, and if you conduct your Speechcraft in the right way, you can achieve anywhere from 60% to 100% of membership of those Speechcrafters joining your club within 4 to 6 weeks of holding your Speechcraft. I'm going to give you an example. A few years ago, I went to a Story Masters meeting. And it was a rather sad little meeting. There were only 3 of us in attendance. There was Phil Stewart, there was Tina Tomiyama, Margaret. Bill spoke. Tina evaluated. And I was the Toastmaster. As you can imagine, it didn't take us very long to complete that meeting. But when the meeting was over, we sat and we discussed why was it the attendance at this meeting was so very low. And what could we do to make certain that that did not become a trend? Now, we realized that there were reasons, good reasons, why some of the members were not there. Some members were sick. Some members were on vacation. And some members simply had other obligations. But we also knew that we had recently moved our meeting location from a restaurant in Culver City to Tina's home in View Park. And that just didn't accommodate some of the members. So after some discussion, we decided that the best way for us to build the membership of Story-Masters was to hold a Speechcraft. And we also decided that since we were an advanced club, and because in order to join our club, you had to have completed at least 6 speeches out of the Competent Communicator Manual, that we had to attract people who were already Toastmasters. So we decided to hold an advanced Speechcraft. We called it a Storycraft. A few weeks later, with the blessings of our executive committee, we held that Storycraft. We had 9 Speechcrafters to attend. And at the end of that Speechcraft, we had 9 members to join our club. The following year, because it was such a popular Speechcraft, we were asked to repeat that Speechcraft, and we did. And the second Speechcraft was just as successful as the first one. Story-Masters has been a thriving President's Distinguished Club ever since. So my message, our message to you tonight is that if you come from a small or dwindling club, or even if your club is just a smidgen below the charter strength of 20 members, do not despair. Use this as an opportunity to rebuild and regrow and re-energize your club. Hold a Speechcraft. And how do you make that determination? You look at how long your club actually meets. Do you have a 1-hour meeting or do you have a 2-hour meeting? How long can your club members devote to actually holding that Speechcraft? Another thing that you look at is whether or not you want to hold your Speechcraft during your regular meeting time, or do you want to hold it outside of regular meeting time? Do you want to hold it in your regular meeting place, or do you possibly want to go off to another location, possibly to meet your Speechcrafters where they meet? Perhaps there's a company that you want to go to. And there can be some particular benefits either way. Can anyone want to speak to what might be a benefit of holding your Speechcraft in your regular meeting time and place? Yeah, Jim.
Well, you're going to get people they want to continue. They're already in the habit of coming to your club meeting, and then they will just continue on after the Speechcraft is over if they see a value in continuing with their Toastmasters experience.
Exactly, exactly. And what might be the benefit of meeting perhaps in where the Speechcrafters perhaps meet for their regular job, at their regular job site?
Convenient. Very convenient for them.
It's convenient for them. So another hand, Janet.
It's a possibility that it also could create a new club.
Very good.
Yeah.
To create another club actually for the district.
Drinking the TI juice.
Something else that you want to make certain that you do is to give the speech crafters an opportunity to speak. At the very minimum, the speech crafters should be able to give 3 speeches. And they can do that in a 4-week Speechcraft. Usually that first meeting is going to be where they learn what a Speechcraft is. It's an orientation meeting. They take an assessment of what their skills already are. And then on that next meeting, they give their first speech. And they can give speeches from the Competent Communication Manual. They can give speeches from Pathways, or they can speak from an advanced manual. Again, you're making that determination based on the market that you want to reach, the kind of Speechcraft that you want to give. But you can also, if you really want to give them great value for their time and their money, and Speechcrafts are not given free. And later on, Tina will talk about that. If you want to give them great value for their money, you can allow them to give 5 speeches, and they can give 5 speeches in a 6-week Speechcraft. And if they do that, my goodness, they can complete 2 levels in Pathways. They can complete an entire advanced manual, or 5 speeches in the Competent Communication Manual. So the possibilities really are endless. I have to kill this ant. Oh. Okay. To make the most of your meeting time, the time that the students speak is only 2 to 3 minutes for their icebreaker, and 3 to 5 minutes for their regular speeches. So that's how you can actually have 5 students in a 1-hour meeting, and it's very doable. Competently Communicators, which is one of the clubs that I belong to, managed to do that, and the way that we managed to get 5 students to get their speeches, to be evaluated, to give them an educational speech and a demo speech in 1 hour was to eliminate table topics. And so we concentrated strictly on speeches and evaluations. And finally, if you're giving a Speechcraft for non-Toastmasters, you want to make certain that you have 1 mentor for each Speechcrafter. Now you have a handout, and in your handout there should be, yes, there is an example of what, does somebody not have one?
There's several hands up over here.
Okay.
Take mine.
And there are some samples of what a Speechcraft agenda might look like. And perhaps you could hand me one, because I don't have one either.
Charles, can you give Margaret these?
So I can go. Okay, thank you, Jen. Oh, this is
Center
not,
spread is the, yeah.
is this the one with or with the agenda in it?
Yeah, these are, well, they're not agendas per se, but they tell what goes on in each.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So, if you look on it's on page 4. In your first session, you would have, that's the one where they're getting really their orientation. So you introduce the participants, the mentors. They could do table topics or not have table topics, because again, you're planning this agenda. And then you give them information about their first speech assignment. Then when they come to session 2, again, they could have possibly table topics, and they give their icebreaker speeches. The mentors evaluate the speech crafters, and then they get their next speech assignment, and on and on. Now, in order to assist you in planning your Speechcraft, Toastmasters International has what they call a Speechcraft kit. And in that kit, there is a manual for your Speechcraft coordinator, and there are manuals for each of your speech crafters. There are certificates, and so that's called a Speechcraft kit. And one of the things that the district is doing this year is that for any club that decides to give a Speechcraft before December 31st of this year, the district will give a free Speechcraft kit. Yay! So I think So I think that's quite a benefit for you and your club, and it will save you a little money. Now, there are some real benefits to giving a Speechcraft, and I'm tired of listening to my own voice, so I'm going to let you talk about some of those benefits. Can someone name at least one benefit that you think would accrue to your club from giving a Speechcraft?
Membership.
Oh, membership, absolutely. That's one of the most important benefits. What else?
Getting everyone in the club involved.
Getting everyone involved, absolutely.
Incoming cash.
Incoming cash, absolutely.
Bringing a new experience to the club, other perspectives outside of the regular members that you have. You have some fresh ideas coming in.
Absolutely. Sometimes if you have a small club and you're trying to do a Speechcraft, and you might wonder, well, where am I going to get everybody that's going to serve as the functionaries and the mentors? So you may need to go out and ask Toastmasters and other clubs to come in and be speakers or be functionaries. And so you can bring those people in, and they can help support your efforts and build up that whole Speechcraft effort for, as you put it forward. And we have some other benefits that we've identified. So I'm going to ask someone to just read off, say, the first 5.
Gain new members.
Okay.
Vitality and energy in the club. A little cash. Educational goals attained fast. Mentoring experience. Everyone in the club involved.
All right.
But wait, there's more.
There's more.
Okay,
the next.
Event planning leadership experience.
Oh, yeah.
Fulfills ACG requirements.
Oh.
Bring in guest speakers. Ask back lax member. Student improves fast. Review or experienced member. Chance to give longer educational something. Educational, you fill it in.
Great. And there are more.
Watch rapid growth of students, good PR for the club, Speechcraft kit provides free.
Yes.
Can accommodate longer speeches, aids in transition from legacy to pathways. People can go fast, service for community and TI.
Absolutely. And I wanted to say just a little bit about the transition from the legacy or traditional program to Pathways. I know a lot of people are a little nervous about Pathways, but doing a Speechcraft in which people can go in and do a Pathways Speechcraft can be a good transition for them, and they can make progress and get those awards just through a Pathways program. And that can also be an excellent way to bring in dual members into your club, because once they see how wonderfully excellent and friendly your club is, you will get some new members from that effort. And now, I'd like to bring up my partner in crime.
He gets to get up on the
Right.
I didn't tell them Louise.
As you're planning your Speechcraft, one of the first decisions that you're going to have to make is a very important one, and that is what type of Speechcraft you want to provide to your club or those potential members. You have 3 options before you. The first is Pathcraft. And that's going to be a 4 to 6 week experience where you're using speeches from the Pathways program in order to help those students become Pathways members. You can also do an advanced Speechcraft, and that's where we're going to focus on one of the advanced manuals, such as storytelling, speak to inform, humorous speaking. These are great opportunities for some advanced members in your club who might want to move forward and hopefully get to their DTM goals. And of course, we also have traditional Speechcraft. This is really great for any lapsed members or any legacy members in your club who maybe haven't had an opportunity to speak in a while. If you want them to finish that CC program, this is a great chance to help them get through those last few speeches. I'm going to first start by explaining to you a little bit about Pathcraft, because this seems to be the scary monster that we're all a little terrified to tackle. So as you know, Pathcraft has 10 paths available to you. You don't have to actually select a path before you head in and start your Pathcraft program. Has anyone taken a look at all the speeches and electives available in Pathcraft for each path? Yeah. If you haven't, you should, because you might notice that level 1 and 2 are the exact same across all levels. This means regardless of what path someone chooses during Pathcraft, the speeches that they'll give will allow them to accelerate into any path they choose once they join your club. The great target audience for this program is going to be new members who have to be enrolled in Pathcraft, or Pathways, excuse me, or if you have existing members who have finished their CC manual. They get to move into Pathways, and it might be a hard transition. So this is a great way to accelerate that and get them started on the right foot. I want to explain to you a little bit about the different type of speeches that are involved. In level 1, we start with an icebreaker across the board. And as Margaret said, that's a 2 to 3 minute speech in this accelerated program. That's a great way to help people get started in speaking quickly. We also have in level 1 an explanation, evaluation and feedback. I'm so sorry. And that speech program is where we give a speech, we incorporate feedback from our evaluator, and then provide another speech afterward incorporating that feedback. And then lastly, we also have Toastmasters mentoring, your understanding leadership style, and understand communication style. These are all options that are available across those paths, and as you can see, they're a part of every pathway. In advanced Speechcraft, we have the different advanced manuals that are available for you, and you get to pick one of those manuals or allow the speakers to pick their own, because these are going to be advanced speakers in your clubs. And then lastly, of course, our traditional Speechcraft. The great thing about this program is that those starting or in the middle of this program, especially if they joined your club beforehand and started with that icebreaker, is that they get to meet that halfway to that CC goal by the end of that 4 to 6 week program. So before we keep going, I know we might have a few questions about Pathways. Tina likes to refer to me as Pathways Guru because I know nothing of the CC manual world. I'm all Pathways. So do you have any questions about the Pathways program or what some of those speeches entail?
Yeah, if you've done any speeches in the book as a confident communicator, does that flow over to any Pathways?
Unfortunately, no.
Okay.
It's a brand new program, and so when someone begins any pathway, they're going to start with their icebreaker right from the beginning. Okay. Yeah. What other questions might you have about Pathways?
A little bit on that.
Sure.
For instance, the icebreaker, you do it in a CC, but it's an icebreaker in Pathways. It's a little more detailed. The researching in CC, it's also researching in Pathways. Also, the second module where it is the functions in in our confident leadership are sometimes integrated into the modules or pathways so that you're doing them. For instance, after you do the 2 speeches, incorporate feedback, they have you also do an evaluation. So what you're doing is kind of transposed and explained a little more in detail in Pathways.
Can I see a show of hands of who might be enrolled in Pathways at the moment? And show of hands, you can raise them higher or lower depending on how comfortable you are logging in and using the online platform.
Oh, that is bad design. Sorry.
Right.
Well, I don't know any better, so.
Right. So one of the great benefits benefits of Pathways is there's actual printable manuals that gives your entire project. So if you have anyone in your club that's used to having something tangible to hold on to rather than logging in online, using a Pathcraft, you can actually print those first 5 speeches in a manual form so that they actually have something they can flip through and reference, as well as their evaluation sheets, which, as you know, now have to be printed whenever we're using those evaluation forms for those speeches. Yes, ma'am.
Why would somebody come to a Speechcraft? I guess I'm missing the point.
To just in general, would they join?
Why would they come to a Speechcraft?
So when you're marketing it for your club, we want to offer just general public speaking benefits. As you know, you might have people come as guests to your clubs every now and then, and when they see the entire meeting, it might be a little intimidating, or they might come in wanting those public speaking skills, but as a guest not necessarily know if they want to take the plunge. Doing a Speechcraft is just a 4 to 6 week experience where they don't necessarily have to make a commitment. They're just paying the fee and you're letting them know that they're going to get those skills. And then we all know once you sort of drink the Toastmasters Kool-Aid, it's really hard to let go. And then for your current members as well, this is
That's being planned as I was wandering around. I heard some serious discussions here. Who would like to come up and tell the group what you're planning for Berkshire? Come on, come on. Sharon's going to tell you about what they're going to do over at the Real Berkshire Elite.
Okay, so the Real Berkshire Elite, we are going to plan as a Speechcraft. And I do a recruitment speech once a week at our company.
Could you speak up some?
I do a recruitment speech once a week at my company meeting.
All right.
And once a week, I'm saying, come on down to Toastmasters.
All right.
Man.
But I was just saying, it's still creating because we want to create interest. That interest has to be meaty, and it has to have some potatoes, and it has to be some meat and potatoes that they don't get all the time, because these meat and potatoes are going to cost about $50.
The spicy potatoes.
Spicy potatoes, that's right, with extra butter. The thing is that we really, I really got excited when you was talking about recruitment and getting more people, because that's something that is our heart's desire. However, I know that it is a process that we're going to have to really continue to have this discussion. But I'm excited. I know we're going to have one, and it'll be at the first of the year, just like you suggested.
Great, thank you, Sharon. We're going to be firing up. If you look at page 7 on your little handout, inside back cover, you'll see a list of the things to consider for planning your Speechcraft. All right, I heard a Speechcraft being planned over here with Mila and Peter and Anthony. Anthony, you want to come up and tell us about that?
Okay.
Oh, I know, just as you stuffed a bunch of peanuts. No raisins in your mouth. Come on, Anthony, Bill.
Good evening again, everyone.
Good evening.
I'm area director B, area director B, right?
Yeah.
B6.
Yeah.
B6, and one of my clubs, Century City, San Vicente has a low member count at 8, and the club has English as a second language. So what I'm going to be doing, what I hope to be doing, is talking with their president and bringing this Speechcraft to them and say, hey, listen, this is a way that we can actually get the members to feel comfortable in doing the speeches, because that's one of the problems that I noticed that they're having right now, that they do not want to do the speech because, oh, I don't speak English properly. So then after, this is a great way to do it because the speeches are shorter. So, one of the things I've been talking to them about was to have shorter icebreakers, 2 to 3 minute icebreakers. So now with Speechcraft, now it's telling me what I need to get done. So I would definitely bring in a team in the group to talk with them, and hopefully we can actually give them the energy that they need to start, growing the club to get more members in and keep the ones that we already have.
Great.
No, I just had a question.
Sure.
If there is a club that's Spanish speaking only, they speak English, but the club only speaks Spanish, how do you do a Speechcraft for them?
I would have to check, but I'll bet you that Speechcraft kits are available in Spanish. But you would need
Yeah.
bilingual people to be the facilitators, the coordinators, the
Yeah.
mentors, the advisors.
Okay, bilingual, yeah.
Well, we're running out of time here, and I don't wanna cut Margaret off. She's gonna ask you what you got out of tonight. So be ready for it, okay? Margaret,
This is
come
the
back.
table talking section.
You have been a great group. And Tina's already asked you, what did you get out of tonight? And so tell me, what did you get out of tonight? Yes.
I got somebody on my side. I don't have to do this all by myself.
You don't. And what you know is everybody in this room has a common experience. And so everybody's looking for some kind of way to grow their club, get new members, and those of us who are presenters tonight are resources for you, but you also have some support and other people who can sympathize with you, empathize with, okay? Okay. So this is a good group. What else did you get from tonight?
Yeah, that we can have an open house, social events to invite, our club is actually a closed club. It's
Yeah.
only for the, LMU employees and staff.
Okay.
And so, of course, they're very well educated, and so they feel they don't need, the Toastmasters. But,
Little do they know.
the staff that has come to our club really enjoy it, and the things are that sometimes they can't make it because of situations like we heard here, that I thought it was just in our club, but I see there's more out there that are having the same issues as we are. And so they suggested to me, the ladies here, Liz, she suggested that we should have an open house, that we should do a social event and invite them and start planning to get them to come to our club, but also why not go with the Speechcraft? You know, so I'm gonna bring it over to my other peers and see if we could do one and invite one of you to come over to our club so that it can be explained better.
And both of those options are really good because, and I hope I have these statistics correct, but that is that worldwide, about 45% of Toastmasters leave Toastmasters every year. So there's constantly turnover. So I don't care how strong your club may be, it's gonna lose members. So you're gonna have to continually build. And open houses are excellent, they're good, but your return is going to be greater with the Speechcraft.
Let me just clarify something.
Yes.
The way you set the scenario,
Yes.
we suggested the open house would be the incentive to do the Speechcraft. So the open house would be to introduce the Speechcraft and then the Speechcraft.
I got you. You give it just, that's the appetizer. Right. Before you give them the dinner.
Spicy potatoes.
Now that's thinking, that's what I'm
Anybody else want to talk about? Yes, Kathy.
Listening to everything, I've been typing notes, so I have a little one-page fact sheet that I'm just gonna share with our members and say, here it is in a nutshell.
also how you guys laid out the process to actually execute a Speechcraft. That was good. So I like that. That was very good.
Me?
Yes.
Are you asking?
Yes, I saw your hand up.
Oh, okay. Still?
Yes.
I had no clue what Speechcraft was. I
Yes.
just had the word craft in it, and I love Pinterest, right? So I was like, oh, craft, and then I'm like, I like speech. So I was just like interested, and I'm so glad I listened and came because one of my meetings is I'm the president of, and we used to be in Whole Foods. I was telling our group, and Amazon has bought Whole Foods, so they kicked us out. So we moved to a park, which is dark a little bit, and it's kind of not inviting, right?
Yeah.
So and it's summer, right? So everything's like shifted. So I'm very grateful that I listened to my gut and showed up tonight, because this is like the perfect thing to you gave that example at the very beginning. I felt like you were talking straight to our group. So thank you so much for presenting this. Very good.
Thank you for your time.
Other question?
Yes.
Yeah.
What's ECG?
Charles.
Visionary Communication Pathway Level 2 Proficient.
I do have some note paper here. It could be that some of you might have some questions, or you want to get in touch with us about a Speechcraft kit. Feel free to write down, I'm just gonna pass this down here, any notes that you want to give to Margaret or me, and we'll be happy to respond to each one of you individually. Don't want to keep you here all night, okay? And did everybody sign in on the sign-in sheet?
Do I get credit?
Oh, yes.
What do you want to say? The date, when we want to do it?
Yes, if you can do that, be precise, because I know you do have to go to executive. Just the name of your club and your name. And your name and your contact.
Okay, we'll leave it here.
Oh, really? Oh, yes. She was asking. Just before. Okay, and Brad, I understand you're gonna close us out, so.
All right. Close us out.
All right, let's hear it for Tina and Margaret and Charles. Great information. Thank you so much for providing that, Tina, Margaret, and Charles. It was well planned and very informative. I learned a lot. I don't have to fake it anymore. I actually know a little bit about what I can talk about now. How many of you have a takeaway from tonight?
Oh, God, yes.
Okay. Speechcraft, very good. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time this evening. And on behalf of our district director, Evelyn Woolridge, our program quality director, Ken Stark, and myself in District 1, and the club growth team, really want to thank you, Tina, Margaret, and Charles, for the great, awesome job you did tonight, and the snacks, and the program, and the notes, and the whole setup was wonderful. Thank you very much. And as a district club growth director, I would just like to offer my assistance on any level with any of your clubs. We have our Speechcraft experts here. If there's anything else that I can help you with, I'm going to leave my cards out here. Feel free to reach out to me, and I can assist you, or have someone on our club growth team assist you. We're all about having you grow your clubs, have successful clubs, and build new clubs. Thanks for being here.
Great way for anyone that's really determined to move forward with any of their own personal goals, like moving toward a DTM or maybe finishing a pathway level, finishing their CC manual. You can let them know that this accelerates that trajectory. So rather than maybe having to wait 3 or 4 meetings before they get to speak again, they'll be speaking every week. Does that help a little bit? No. We'll get started when Tina joins us, and she'll spend a little bit more about what you consider when you're planning your Speechcraft, and that'll have some insight into how that would benefit potential members or current members.
So is this like almost an event that you're planning? Is this almost like an event, an
Yeah.
ongoing event that you're putting together?
It's a special program
And
that
who
you're.
assists you with that? Is that the members from the club that will assist you?
Yeah, Tina will get into that a little bit. Basically what that is someone's going to be your representative for Speechcraft, and they, with your club officers, will plan that entire program, and then you have those special considerations that Margaret talked about in order to make that whole program happen.
So do you market it to the outside world?
You can. You can also, if you know that you'd rather focus on your internal members, you can just focus directly with that group as well. Or you can do a mixture of both.
Okay.
Yeah. I saw another hand. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so in Pathway, once you've completed your speech and your evaluation form has been completed, do I upload that back into Pathways?
They encourage that because they have an online server where you can store all your evaluations, and it's great to kind of look back and see some of the feedback you've received before. But once you complete your project, you'll actually evaluate yourself through that online portal, and afterwards that notifies your VPE that you've completed that level, and they'll send that forward to the headquarter office. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Is it like taking taking a knitting class, learn how to knit in 5 weeks? Like learn the basics of knitting in 5 weeks?
And if you've ever been interested in knitting, you might go, 5 weeks, I can make that commitment. That
Yeah.
seems approachable.
Okay. I get it now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Excellent. If you don't have any other questions about Pathways, I'd like to, oh, yes ma'am.
Should you join Pathway if you have not finished your CME manual?
Your CC manual?
CC manual.
Yes, ma'am. So I would suggest, because we don't have to kind of switch over completely to Pathways until I believe it's 2020, you want to encourage your members that have started their CC manual to finish it. And this is a great program to accelerate them to go ahead and meet that and finish that manual pretty quickly. Yeah. Yes, Brad.
And you can also do both programs simultaneously.
Which is also a really good benefit. Thank you.
Which I do.
But you can also be enrolled in both programs simultaneously. You can't necessarily join CC manual if you're in Pathways now, but you can, if you're already enrolled in the CC manual, also join Pathways. Yes, ma'am?
Is there an extra fee for that to join both?
I believe you receive your first Pathway free as a Toastmasters member, and after that, each online Pathway is $20, and then if you want to purchase the hard copy manual, it's $45.
So if I could conduct a Speechcraft, does that take the place of starting a club as part of my DTM requirement?
You, in the new Pathways program, you're encouraged, I believe, as part of the goals to lead a Speechcraft or co-chair it, but that wouldn't replace actually starting a club from the other leadership manual.
Okay, because I was reading and it sounded like I could do a Speechcraft in lieu of starting a club.
Yeah, it says right here, select one, club sponsors, Speechcraft or youth leadership program on the goals to become leadership.
Is that correct?
It's a club sponsor, yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Club sponsor, perfect. My apologies, yeah.
Is it true?
Club sponsor,
I'm sorry?
It's true?
Yes, I
It's
believe.
true.
A club sponsor versus
True.
or co-chairing a Speechcraft.
It's
I'm
the
only
same thing,
level
yeah.
2, my apologies. Yeah.
It's okay.
On my DTM journey, I'm in my baby steps. Excellent. So I think there's a lot of things to consider when you're planning your first Speechcraft. A lot more things than I have experience with. So I want to bring up someone who's led successfully 6 Speechcrafts to let you know what you also need to consider in planning. Please welcome Tina Tomiyama.
Tina Tomiyama.
Charles gives me too much credit. I participated in 6 Speechcrafts. The first one I participated in was led by Giovanna Dettori. Who knows Giovanna? Okay, that was a well-planned Speechcraft. So that's where I learned to respect the program and see what it could do. So I just want to say, by the way, that all our presenters' email addresses are on the back of this little handout. If you have more Pathways questions for Charles, feel free to email him. He's already agreed that he will answer your emails.
Promise.
And I should point out that the pathways, the Pathcraft that we're talking about, you have not selected your path yet, and you have not gone online to TI yet. You're just doing the speeches in advance, and when you're done with, let's say, the first 5 speeches in a Pathcraft, then you can join Toastmasters, and then you can put those in for credit.
Oh.
Okay?
Okay.
But in the meantime, you're working from a printed out manual.
So does that mean that if you're in on the Pathcraft program, then this would be non-employed?
This wouldn't be something that you do for yourself, but your club might do it for newbies, and you would be an advisor or a mentor.
And don't forget those DCP goals also include members getting to level 1 or 2. So if you want to meet some of those goals, this is a great way to accelerate pretty quickly.
DC what?
The
DCP goals
English
for your
Club
club.
program goals.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So let's start actually thinking about planning a Speechcraft for our club. Not joining one, but planning one to give to other people. Does that sound good? Yes. All right. How many of you are club officers? Can I get a show of hand? Oh boy, okay, just virtually everybody. All right. That's great, because this decision isn't one that you make unilaterally. This is something that the executive board of your club gets together and agrees to do, because it really does take the whole club. It's sort of like it takes a village. Okay. And if your club hasn't been having executive board meetings, well, this would be a good reason to have one. All right.
But how about area directors? So if you're
area directors, you're going to be taking this information to your clubs.
Okay, and that's it.
If you've got some clubs, the kind of club that I think would be so perfect for Speechcraft is a club that's got maybe 12 members, and it's got a couple of old timers in there who know the program pretty well, and it's got some newer people, kind of a good mix. But they need members, and they need to get some educational goals in if they want to be a distinguished club. That kind of club already has the resources to put on a Speechcraft for those 12 members, and they can immediately gain at least the 5 new members that they need in order to get it done. Okay, so let's talk about your club. Be thinking in the back of your head while I talk about this. What does your club want to achieve from this program? Does your club want new members? Is your club broke? Would it like a little money? Because remember, people value things that they actually had to pay for. Toastmasters is just fine with your charging whatever is a reasonable amount to the students, just as they would pay if they went to UCLA Extension and took a 12-week public speaking course for $250. Well, you'll give them a Speechcraft course with 6 meetings for $50, and it's a bargain. When we did the Storycraft that Margaret talked about, we charged $50. Half of that went towards the club's membership when they joined the club after the Speechcraft. If they didn't join the club, it was okay, because we still had the money. Of course, we wanted them to join, right? And the other half actually went for snacks and the Speechcraft kits and printing handouts and that sort of thing. So $50 was a perfectly reasonable sum, and we had no trouble at all signing up 9 people for each course. Let's see. Obtain educational goals fast. We keep talking about that. But it's true in some clubs like Century City Toastmasters that Charles and Brad and I belong to. You can't get on the planner for 8 weeks. Yeah. I mean, it's tough. So if you want to go really fast, you set up a special outside of the club meeting Speechcraft, and the people who really want to speak a lot can go straight through on that. And let's see. So figure out what goals your club wants. And it can get multiple goals because all those benefits can happen from any Speechcraft.
Can I ask you something about
Sure.
that? So, it's for people who have not started, let's say pathways, right? But then you have this accelerated program of people who are committing 4 to 6 weeks and they don't know what they're committing to already. You know, like when you come, like for example, when I went to different clubs or different meetings just to see how it was, and then I committed to a club, right?
Yes.
But now, how realistic is it to think, okay, we can set this Speechcraft 4 to 6 weeks, and people right off the gate are gonna commit to that, like, cause it's a speech every week.
Right?
So,
but
yeah.
if they want to, let's say, okay, I remember talking to a guy who joined a club, Toasted Yahoos, because his son was getting bar mitzvah in 6 weeks, and he wanted to learn really fast how to get up and give a speech. And that various life events happen, and people suddenly decide, oh my goodness, I have to MC something, I have to speak at Charlie's wedding. So they really want to get those public speaking skills under their belt. And they're getting the skills, they're just giving shorter speeches. We're not shortchanging the educational part, just speech time. So Toastmasters says that a Speechcraft course can be 4 weeks, 6 weeks, or 8 weeks. I don't know why it can't be 5, but that's what it's called. So in a 4-week course, the students would each give 3 speeches. In a 6-week course, they'd each give 5 speeches, and in an 8-week course, like the one down at Charles Drew University that Liz is chairing this fall, that they would each give 7 speeches. So just keep that in mind. The first meeting, the students aren't speaking except for table topics meeting. Now here's the big question. Where will you hold your Speechcraft? Do you have to rent a place? You can hold it where your club normally meets. But I will give you one little cautionary tale. I remember when Praise Masters held a Speechcraft in the summertime. Things were a little slow. And it was a 6 or 8 week one, I can't remember which one. And at the end of the 6 or 8 week period, yes, some of the new members joined, but the old members who hadn't been coming because they weren't involved in the Speechcraft stopped coming. They'd gotten out of the habit. So it ended up being a net 0. So that's why it's really important to have your whole club involved in the Speechcraft. And why, when we did the Storycraft, we did it on separate Sundays. Story Masters meets on the 2nd Sunday, so we did it on the 1st and 3rd Sundays. So remember, if you have to pay for meeting space, to include that in what you charge the students. You can also, if you have 2-hour meetings, you can do 1 hour for the Speechcraft and 1 hour for your regular club meeting. A lot of work, but it can be done. So what are you going to cover during the course? You don't have to do anything except speeches. And you can do any kind of speeches that you want to, as we know. But you might want some table topics. Students might want to learn how to speak extemporaneously. You might want to cover evaluations. When we did the Charles Drew University Speechcraft last fall, they weren't all that interested in learning evaluations, but this year their coordinator has been asked to include in a week for the students to learn evaluations. What dates and times will you set aside? Remember that many people are used to coursework beginning in September and January. Those are great months to start a Speechcraft. It doesn't necessarily fit with the Toastmasters Smedley Awards, but those are the months that people start thinking about going to things. Now, how many students can your club accommodate? If your club only has 8 members, how many students can you take on?
8.
Okay, you got it. You can take on the number of students that your club can mentor successfully. And remember that if you have 8 students giving a speech, every meeting, that's definitely gonna be a 2-hour meeting. 5 students is kind of easier. Sometimes you have to break it into 2 sections, and one, group A does their icebreakers on one meeting, and group B does them on the second time. So, figure out your maximum and don't go beyond it. If you say 10 students is maximum, don't take on an 11th one, don't be sorry. Okay. Now, marketing your course. Okay, selling it. If you are a company club, somebody tell me, where would you market this Speechcraft course in a company club? How?
Our internal website, that's the start with.
Okay,
Then
internet.
At
yeah.
the reception desk where they have, when they walk in. Tell them
Okay.
what to do.
Flyers in the break rooms.
Flying in break rooms.
Maybe a table in the cafeteria even, if you really wanted to go at it. Get your get your people from your coworkers, and this would be for brand new people. Now let's say you're a community club. Where are you gonna find your students?
Community meetings, they have task forces during the week. You can have
Sorry,
information. At
task-
community meetings, they have different
Community
task forces.
meetings,
Yes,
okay,
community meetings.
right.
Ask your current members to invite people.
Ask your current members to invite people. All right, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Starbucks.
Starbucks,
Yeah.
right. Starbucks does have one rule, just so you know, only free events. So if you're charging for your Speechcraft, and I hope you are, because you have some
Yeah,
costs here,
exactly.
then you can't do Starbucks. Libraries will often let you.
Libraries.
Yep, they're good. Libraries, people actually go to libraries, Anthony. What about social media? Meetup?
Meetup.
All right, Facebook, get the word out there, tell people, be sure to sign up now because we're only taking 6 students. And that will work. So where and how will you market the course, and how much will it cost your club? Add up everything. Add up rent, because that's a big one. Your Speechcraft kit, okay, you get a free Speechcraft kit and it comes with enough student manuals for 5 students. If you need more manuals, you've got to order them from TI, so be sure and add that. Are you going to give the students anything to eat or drink? Okay, add that in there. Are you going to give them any kind of certificate or present or little memento at the end of the event? Go ahead, add that in. Are you going to invite a graduation speaker, a keynote speaker who's coming from outside? You need any honorariums to be paid. Be sure you have all of that, and then divide it by the number of students and make sure there's some left over for your club. And so when you've done that, then you know how much you're going to charge your students, but be sure to charge them something. Again, if it's free, it might not be as valued as if you charge for it. Everybody with me so far? Okay, so you've decided that this would be a great thing for your club. You kind of have a picture in your mind of what you're going to do. Now, what are your first steps? Once you've taken it to your executive committee and they bought in and said, yeah, this is good, everyone's going to do this, you need a coordinator or 2 coordinators. You can have up to 2 and they can both get credit. So that coordinator is probably going to be you because you're the leader on this, and you can have a coordinator who is probably going to be the club's VPE. Unless that's you too. But do try to get somebody else, just in case you can't make it for 2 meetings. Second thing is to decide how many meeting roles you need to fill. If you're not doing table topics, for example, okay, you don't need a topic master, right? But you will want a Toastmaster, you will want a general evaluator, and you might have an educational presenter, a special person for each meeting. They can all be different people each time. You know, timer, you definitely want teach the students how to keep to time. Okay, so let's see where we are now. Okay, your club is bought in, you've got your coordinator or coordinators, you figured out how many people you're gonna need to be present at each meeting. You know how much you're gonna charge the students, where you're gonna find them, what dates you're gonna have them. You've maybe even started thinking about who your presenters are gonna be and whether you're gonna ask people from outside or maybe ask some lapsed Toastmasters to come back in. You're almost ready. But there's still a few more steps. Okay. Get your club buy-in. You can't do it by yourself or with one or two people. You really, really need the whole club. Find your team, okay? While the club is all excited, you've given this really great inspirational, motivational speech. You've done a Charles up there. You've gotten them all excited. That's the time to pass around the sign-up sheet and get them to sign up for the roles that you're going to need. Make sure that you have the roles filled at least 2 weeks in advance. It really does help. Now, promote your event. We talked about some ways to do that, okay? Determine your market, where you're gonna find your students. Ask club members to sign up friends, as Nancy said, company clubs, intranet, community clubs, local papers. You can even run a free ad in the local paper. Write a clear pitch. Know what it is that you're promising. Learn public speaking in 6 weeks in a convivial atmosphere. Well, I don't know about those last 2 words.
Yeah, I was going to say, hey, you lost me there.
6 weeks is good, okay. Add on what you feel like adding on.
Yeah.
But write a clear pitch that you can use all the time, over and over. Provide the dates and times of every session so that people can calendar them from the very get-go. Both your club members and the students need to know that information. Be clear about the cost and what the students get for the cost. When we told the Storycraft students that it was $50, we told them, and 24 of that will go for your membership for the next 3 months, because membership was only $8 then. So they knew that going in. They knew if they chose not to join the club, that we weren't going to give them their $24 back. We were just going to keep them. And actually, that would have been fine, except they all jumped. All right. Are you're providing materials? You're providing refreshments, maybe expert instruction. So make sure that if you say that you're providing expert instruction, that the people who are giving your educational presentations are really good. Okay. Now, how many students? Your contact information and a call to action. Sign up now, call or email. Just if you want to get the money in advance, it's probably a good idea. PayPal is really handy for that. If people don't want to do cash. Make sure that you start promoting at least a month in advance. A month is really not enough time. 2 months would even be better. So 6 weeks, good thing. You've got materials to order. If you need extra Speechcraft workbooks for the students, if you need ribbons, if you need copies of the Pathcraft manual or the Pathways manuals that they're going to be using, the Pathways speech projects, and each Pathways speech project is like a 20 or 24 page booklet, so there's a lot of copying to be done there. The district will provide that free Speechcraft kit if you schedule your Speechcraft to begin by December 31st. Now I know I just told you January was a great month, so if you're starting your Speechcraft at the beginning of January, talk to Brad or Margaret or me, we'll see if we can slip you a free Speechcraft course, okay? All right. Remember things like folders, pens, pencils, everything, okay. Then, develop your course syllabus. What are you going to be teaching at each session? You've got a little version in here, but go ahead and plan it out. Put the timed agenda, who's doing what. Make sure that you've actually got the whole course planned out and people assigned wherever you possibly can. Remember that the educational speech that you give on week 1 is the speech that the students will give on week 2. And the educational speech you give on week 5 is the same speech that the students will give on week 6. Is that making sense? Let me try and describe. You talk about the icebreaker and you maybe give a demo icebreaker speech at the first session. It's on the second session that the students are going to be doing that. The sessions don't have to be every week, so when I say week, I really mean session. You can do Speechcraft or Pathcraft every other week if that works for you, as often as you want to. All right, we're all feeling good here? Now, I did want to give you a couple of pitfalls. Okay, I told you about what happened at Praismasters, where not enough club members were involved in the story, in the Speechcraft, and so they saw it as a summer holiday and got completely out of the habit of coming to meetings. Okay, so keep your members involved, okay. If you have 2-hour meetings, then maybe you can run a 1-hour Pathcraft and a 1-hour regular meeting. Okay, this one's so easy, you know. Another, don't do it. Don't forget to ask your guests to join the club. Okay? They're waiting to be asked. I joined a club completely because I was showing up as a visitor. I only belonged to one club at that time, and I was just fine with that one club. But Annie Hastings was their treasurer, and she looked up at me and she gave me that Annie smile and she said, "Tina, are you here to join our club? Here's an application." How can you say no to Annie? So ask the students, ask them at every meeting. It's not too often. They want to be asked. Another pitfall, not specifying the benefit to the students in your publicity. Make sure you tell them what they will get from this 4 weeks or 6 weeks or 8 weeks. Skill development, a portion of the cost going to club membership. Whatever you're promising them, confidence, ease, be sure that you can deliver on that, but specify it. Okay, you know about charging enough to cover your costs. It'd be a shame if anybody had a Toastmasters year and actually ended up paying people to come to it. No one do that. No. By the way, I should mention that Story Masters Club, we managed to build up our treasury by having those 2 story crafts. And since then, we've had 1 workshop each summer on some subject. We've never charged club dues, and we have a nice, healthy bank balance. So it's perfectly fine to have an event and charge people. So if you have a lot of students and not that much time, start thinking about what you can skip. Don't try to cram everything in. You can skip the pledge. You can skip the joke. You can skip the thought. Just put in the really, really important things. You could even skip the counters report if you need to. Certain pages you'll find in the Speechcraft manual, maybe you're skipping them. Maybe there's a page devoted to teaching the students to evaluate, and you've decided that that's not going to be part of your particular course. Fine, skip them. Nobody's holding you to the fire to do that. Don't start with a small class because you failed to do enough PR beforehand. So remember that once you've started doing your PR, do it and do it and do it. People might have to see your request to join the class 3 times before they take action on it. So go right ahead. bombard them. All right, you've listened to me long enough. Now, could you actually try planning a speech craft? Let me ask first, for show of hands, how many of you think that this would be good for either your club or one of your clubs or a club that you are the area director of? Okay, good. We have some people then. Could you pair, let's see, let's not do pairs, let's do fours. Do you think, Margaret? Okay. And try to find those people who had their hands up. Can you raise them again? Okay. These are people that are really serious about this. So you who don't necessarily have to do it, can you pair up with somebody who's really got a speechcraft in mind and help them plan it? Okay, so you'll need to just move your chairs around and kind of go different places. It's 8:05 now, and we'll do this little exercise for 12 minutes. Okay, at the end of it, I'm going to ask you to come up and tell me what you do.
I know, like, like, you have the whole club here. This is my problem. Out of all my clubs that I oversee, the one that's having the most problem is the San Vicente. We are at roughly 8. People come in. We have guests come in every week, but they don't come back.
No, we don't need to record this part. Yeah.